الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله تعالى من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا إنه من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن سيدنا محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وخليله بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح للأمة فكشف الله تعالى به الغمة وجاهد في الله حق جهاده حتى أتاه اليقين من ربه. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد الرحمة المهداة وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وعلى أصحابه وعلى من تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. All praises belonging to Allah Azza wa Jal. May the peace and blessings be upon His beloved Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and upon his family and companions in entirety. Ask Allah Azza wa Jal on this blessed day of Friday to guide us, protect us, preserve us from fitna and tribulations and trials, and to better the condition of humanity to collectively. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to allow us to emerge from night, to give charge of our affairs to the best of us, not the worst of us. Allahumma walli umurana khiyarana, wa la tuwalli umurana shirarana, wa la tusallit alayna bidhunubina man la yakhafuka wa la yarhamuna. Allahumma aslih hal al-bashariyati fi mashariq al-ardi wa magharibiha. اللهم فك الكرب عن أمة حبيبك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم ول أمورنا خيارنا ولا تولي أمورنا شرارنا. اللهم لا تجعل الكافرين ولا للمنافقين ولا للظالمين علينا سبيلا. اللهم أبرم لأمة محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم إبرام رشد يعز فيه أهل طاعتك ويحكم فيه بشريعتك. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من شر الفتن ما ظهر منها وما بطن. ادخلنا في حفظك وحرزك وكنفك ورعايتك من كل سوء ومكروه أنت به عليم يا رب العالمين. آمين آمين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. أما بعد, brothers and sisters, it's critical that the believer in this present moment reflects, because we're at a critical juncture. Humanity is at a crossroads, and we've been speaking about this for many khutbahs, a year in review. We're in October again. It's been a full year since the genocide on Gaza began, and we're 1 month from the presidential elections. And we're witnessing in this past week conflict intensifying, spreading to other parts and pockets, more countries being pulled into the warmongering of the leaders of today. And it's very tragic to see so much more loss of life, brothers and sisters. Many people are talking with a lot of uncertainty about what's happening. Where are we going? Is this the beginning of World War III? There's more uncertainty, not more clarity. And for me as a Muslim, as I see what's happening, I know that I'm clear on a few things. My deen clarifies it to me with no ambiguity. We don't celebrate war. We don't celebrate loss of life. It's not something I rejoice about. When I see people going into tragedy and, bombings happening in this country or that, buildings collapsing, people crying, I don't celebrate that. Yeah, I do celebrate injustice, experiencing demise, and oppressors being held accountable. I do celebrate that. But I don't want warmongering. I don't want bloodshed. Brothers and sisters, the pharaohs of today, fara'inat al-asr, are doubling down on their warmongering. And they're driving humanity into the ground, and it's a very scary thing. Brothers and sisters, one of the images that struck me and hurt me that I saw today was of a video of a large group of people swarming these pots of rice, each one of them with a small pot, trying to get a little bit of the rice so that they don't starve to death. And I saw the comment on the video saying, Allahumma jawwa' man jawwa'a ahla Gaza, Allahumma ameen. Oh Allah, whoever caused the people of Gaza in 2024 to experience starvation, oh Allah, we ask you to hold them accountable. 73 tons of bombs manufactured in our country, making their way to Beirut, Lebanon, is something that's unjustifiable. There's no way any sane human being can justify 73 tons of bombs in residential areas for any reason. That's something that is very alarming for the direction of humanity. Brothers and sisters, as I think of this as a believer today, I'm clear on me knowing what the end result is. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or the day after or next month or in the coming year. I have no idea. But I know Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. The end result will be for people of taqwa, people who are people of conscience. I know that the Quran tells me the end result will be for those oppressed in the land. As the Quran says, وَنُرِيدُ أَن نَمُنَّ عَلَى الَّذِينَ اسْتُضْعِفُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَنَجْعَلَهُمْ أَئِمَّةً وَنَجْعَلَهُمُ الْوَارِثِينَ. And we seek to confer our favor upon those oppressed in the land, and we will make them imams, leaders. That's the reality that Allah Azza wa Jal teaches. When has time ever favored the oppressor? Yeah, sure. Superpowers have made it convenient for themselves to rewrite history. But the truth is always exposed, and time always shows that the superpowers of yesterday ended up in the trash bins of history. That's the reality of it. I know that. Yes, getting there is very tragic, very devastating process. But I'm clear on this. There will always be people who support truth. The Prophet ﷺ promises, لا تزال طائفة من أمتي قائمة بأمر الله تعالى لا يضرهم من خذلهم أو خالفهم حتى يأتي أمر الله وهم ظاهرون على الناس. There will be a people who remain resilient in truth. And they will not be dissuaded by those who betray them until Allah's affair and Allah's decree comes and changes that reality. I'm very clear on certain things. My deen teaches me. Wickedness cannot remain. فَأَمَّا الزَّبَدُ فَيَذْهَبُ جُفَاءً وَأَمَّا مَا يَنْفَعُ النَّاسِ فَيَمْكُثُ فِي الْأَرْضِ. The foam in the floodwater is carried away. But that which remains, that benefits people, that truly remains in the ground. Brothers and sisters, as I'm looking at this reality and I'm reflecting on the time I live in, I can't help but think of what guidance did our deen give about navigating difficult realities, navigating the end of times. Now, to address a question, are we in the end of times? The answer, there's no one who realizes that the unknown or ilm al-ghayb, the unseen realm, is a property belonging to Allah Azza wa Jal alone. قُلْ لَا يَعْلَمُ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ الْغَيْبَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. There's no one who realizes and understands that and then can make a big claim like we're in the end of times. I can't say that. That's min ilm al-ghayb. لَا يَعْلَمُهُ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. There are many signs though. And that's what I'm concerned about. Why do I even think about the end of times if I don't know if we're in the end of times? The answer to this is the words of our Prophet ﷺ teaching us about the senseless murder that'll happen in society. Prophet ﷺ tells us in the hadith, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ لَا تَذْهَبُ الدُّنْيا حَتَّى يَأْتِي عَلَى النَّاسِ يوم لا يدري القاتل فيما قتل ولا المقتول فيما قتل لا يدري القاتل فيما قتل ولا المقتول فيما قتل. Prophet ﷺ says, by the one whom my soul is in his hands, this world will not end until people will come upon a time where the killer won't know why he killed, and the killed won't know why he was killed. And that cannot be more symbolic of any time in human history than it is now. People in operation rooms, operating drones like they're video games, leveling buildings, causing all kinds of destruction within minutes, taking hundreds of lives. Brothers and sisters, that's something our Prophet ﷺ said will happen. People won't know why there's so much misinformation in that time. People will be confused. The deceitful years, as the Sunnah refers to them as. سنوات خداعات يصدق فيها الكاذب ويكذب فيها الصادق ويؤتمن فيها الخائن ويخون فيها الأمين. In those deceitful years, people who are liars will be seen as truthful ones. People who are truthful will be cast out as liars. People who are treacherous will be embraced as genuine. And people who are genuine will be described as traitors. Brothers and sisters, with all this in mind, what is the practical takeaway? When I think of the end of times, many people, this is what they envision when they think of the end of times. During those times, Islam teaches you to be complacent, to withdraw, to disconnect, to focus on yourself. Because they misunderstand the words in the prophetic tradition. No, our prophetic tradition is all about speaking truth to power. Is all about caring for the direction of society. Is all about trying to save people from themselves. That's what the Sunnah teaches us. There's no way I could understand the Sunnah of Muhammad ﷺ and understand the Quranic discourse and then assume that the most practical takeaway from speaking about the end of times is for me to retreat away from the problems of people and run away to save myself. That's not what the Sunnah teaches whatsoever. Abadan. How can I proactively function in torrential waters? How must I equip myself in difficult times? What must I be wary of? Right now, there's a lot of things at play, brothers and sisters. We're in a time where the world faces all kinds of economic uncertainties. We're experiencing it. Everything's going up. The economy is not doing too well after COVID. Yet, we find that the leaders of today's world have convinced themselves that it is the most opportune time to spend billions and billions of dollars on militaries and drop hundreds of millions of dollars worth of bombs on towns and on cities and nations. Brothers and sisters, we've seen this throughout history. For some reason, the leaders of the progressed world have forgotten the lesson. Those subjugated by Fir'aun yesterday have chosen to become the Fir'auns of today, the pharaohs of today. Brothers and sisters, we learned this in history that there's no way a positive result could come about by subjugating and suppressing people, suppressing their voices, subjugating them, bombing them until they're silenced. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. There's a scary hadith. The Prophet ﷺ says, إِنَّ النَّاسَ إِذَا رَأَوُا الظَّالِمِ فَلَمْ يَأْخُذُوا عَلَى يَدَيْهِ أَوْشَكَ أَنْ يَعُمَّهُمُ اللَّهُ بِعِقَابٍ مِّنْهُ. If people see an oppressor and do not take him by the hands to stop him from his oppression, again, very proactive, very concerned for the direction of society. If they see an oppressor and they don't stop him, then the scary and perilous result may be that they all may face the consequences of not stopping his oppression. Brothers and sisters, we know who wants this war to continue to go on. We know who wants the bloodshed to continue to spread and spread. And if people of reason and understanding do not dominate, then the direction of humanity does not look very good. Brothers and sisters, with all that's happened in the past year, as I said, year in review, I'm afraid that the relationship between leaders and leadership and their followers has been severed beyond repair. There's a great mistrust of politicians and politics. Politics have all become about opportunism, self-interest, alliances, false allegiances. And this is something very, very scary for that to be the nature. The Prophet ﷺ teaches us about the great amana and the trust that is upon one who's in a position of power. And one of the features of the end of time that Prophet ﷺ tells us is that people of ignorance will rise to positions of power. Right? إن الله لا يقبض العلم انتزاعا ينتزعه من قلوب العباد لكن بقبض العلماء حتى إذا لم يبقي عالما اتخذ الناس رؤوسا جهالا فسئلوا فأفتوا بغير علم فضلوا وأضلوا. Prophet ﷺ tells us, when an ignorant person is in a position of power and can press a button and destroy the lives of families and society, that type of power, that type of intoxicating power will destroy the direction of humanity. That's one of the things our Prophet ﷺ said about the end of times. So how must I contribute? I need to understand this moment. I need to embrace it. I need to realize it. I need to invest in my own self-awareness. How am I operating? Am I contributing to division? Am I aiding oppression? Am I contributing to division? Am I aiding oppression? The Ummah of Muhammad ﷺ right now, more than ever, is in need of great unity. Because we learn from our Habib Muhammad ﷺ that the demise of the Ummah of Muhammad ﷺ won't come about because of some natural disaster that will obliterate the Ummah. It'll not come about by a force, an external force that'll destroy them. It'll come about by division between their ranks. That's something I need to keep in mind as I'm operating as a Muslim in these very difficult times. The Prophet ﷺ says this in the hadith. وإني سألت ربي لأمتي ألا يهلكها بسنة عامة وألا يسلط عليهم عدوا من سوى أنفسهم فيستبيح بيضتهم. And this hadith says that the Prophet ﷺ was given these two things. And he says that يا محمد إني أعطيتك لأمتك ألا أهلكهم بسنة عامة وألا أسلط عليهم عدوا من سوى أنفسهم يستبيح بيضتهم ولو اجتمع عليهم من بأقطارها. Look at these words of the Prophet ﷺ. Even if all in the land was to collude and collaborate against the Ummah of Muhammad ﷺ, I believe, and I firmly believe, that won't be the downfall and demise. What's the greatest struggle? What is the greatest struggle of the Ummah of Muhammad ﷺ today? Question to think about. What is the greatest struggle of the Ummah of Muhammad ﷺ today? Based on this hadith, we understand that it's finding our true identity and unifying upon goodness. I shouldn't allow it for myself. I am experiencing conflicts with person X, Y, or Z, and I feel like I've severed ties with friends or family or whoever else. That is going to cause a sense of weakness that will make me fall prey to the challenges of life. I can't allow that to happen. I shouldn't allow that weakness in my heart. That's how we proactively approach the difficult realities of our times. Brothers and sisters, I can't allow that to happen. I need to make sure. If that's the case, I need to make sure that I stand strong alongside my brother. That I make dua for the ummah. I can't continue to be so self-absorbed in my own reality. I cannot be heedless and neglectful of what's happening around the world. 73 tons of bombs on Beirut should break my heart. I should make dua that Allah Azza wa Jalla alleviates this difficulty and doesn't allow this oppression to continue. No matter who it's waged against. Brothers and sisters, if I'm going to navigate these difficult waters, I need to understand what are the challenges that the Prophet ﷺ told me will happen. Brothers and sisters, in this regard, the Prophet ﷺ tells us to be people again who speak truth, stand for truth. The Prophet ﷺ says, كيف بكم إذا لم تأمروا بالمعروف ولم تنهوا عن المنكر. How will it be when you as an ummah no longer say the truth and no longer speak against falsehood? So they asked the Prophet ﷺ, وَكَائِنٌ ذَلِكَ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. Will that happen, O Prophet of Allah? Will the ummah really be silent as falsehood is getting the upper hand and as wrongful things are being done? Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, that scene, brothers and sisters, should be on the conscience of every person. How can I justify killing people? How can I justify killing people just so that I can secure my military objectives? Brothers and sisters, people in these positions of power need to be removed from that power. They need any politician who pushes for war, pushes to allow people to die because of some greater objective that he has in mind, is someone who's lost touch with humanity. Brothers and sisters, that brings me to the next point. How do I deal with times of fitan and trials and afflictions? The heart needs to be repaired. Someone who has the capacity in them to justify their ends by any means necessary is someone who's a deplorable human being on the inside. Brothers and sisters, reforming the heart is a critical step to changing our reality. The things that led Fir'aun to do what he did all stemmed from things within the heart. Worshipping desire, chasing our every want. Things that our deen teaches us to hold ourselves accountable for. I need to reform the heart and fix what's inside me. There's no way a person who has an inkling of humanity within him would have the capacity to throw someone off the side of a building, like we saw in Janine and we mentioned it in our last khutbah, and then turn around and shake hands with his fellow soldier. That's a person who's lost all sense of humanity, with a mutilated sense of humanity. Politics needs to go from being the object of the morally bankrupt to being something truly about preserving the interests of society and serving society. It needs to become about that. It's far from that now, and this is part of why we're at where we're at. You get supported by the right lobby, you'll get in a position of power. Not supported by that lobby, guess what? You'll never get in a position of power. وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ ظُلُمَاتٌ بَعْضُهَا فَوْقَ بَعْضٍ. Ya Allah. Brothers and sisters, the lesson of the moment, what is it? After a year with the genocide against Gaza, and with us in this critical moment seeing the signs of more conflict and bloodshed, and with things changing in our own country, what should we do? What should we do? I need to build my own sense of awareness. I need to embrace this. I can't. If you've come to this khutbah and you don't know what happened in the world in the past few days, then I'm being negligent of part of my fard, part of my obligation. I need to be utterly aware. I need to be utterly concerned. Investing in my own self-awareness is one. Two is, I really need to figure this out on an individual level. Because before Netanyahu became who he became, he was a deplorable human being on an individual level who was catapulted into power. He shouldn't have been in power. He shouldn't have been in power. That type of warmongering should never be sanctioned and supported by people of reason and understanding. If I am bankrupt in my own home, if I am bankrupt in my own business dealings and my own friendships, brothers and sisters, then of course, I will not be a positive contributor to change. I'll be part of the dead weight and part of the darkness that the Prophet ﷺ said will pervade society in the end of times. Brothers and sisters, these fitan, these difficulties, they need proactive reaction and behavior. If I'm not supporting goodness, then I'm aiding the wickedness. If I don't do my part, then I am complicit. Anyone in their right mind could possibly think that the decisions made by our own country does not make the current leaders of our country culpable in what's happening on the other side of everyone knows it. The only reason why the genocide against Gaza happened is because politicians in our own country did not do their part. That's the reality. Brothers and sisters, investing in our own betterment, becoming self-aware, making sure that we be a people who stand up for what's right, speaking truth to power as our deen teaches us. As we learn from one of the stories of the Quran in Surah Ghafir, the believing man from the people of Fir'aun. He said, وَيَا قَوْمِ مَا لِي أَدْعُوكُمْ إِلَى النَّجَاةِ وَتَدْعُونَنِي إِلَى النَّارِ تدعونني لأكفر بالله وأشرك به ما ليس لي به علم وأنا أدعوكم إلى العزيز الغفار. That sentiment of concern for people's bad choices. Look at this, what he's saying here. Oh my people, why is it that I call you to be saved and you call me to hellfire? You call me to rebel against God and associate with Him, and I'm calling you to His forgiveness and His majesty. وَنَدْعُوكُمْ إِلَى الْعَزِيزِ الْغَفَّارِ. Or like that man in Surah Yasin, these individuals, they weren't named in the Quran. They weren't named in the Quran. But their legacy was left behind for every person of conscience to think about. Brothers and sisters, the hadiths about fitan and malahim and the end of times are not about disconnecting and disengaging and isolating. They're about realizing the great perilous danger that faces society and approaching that with a very mindful approach. Very mindful approach. This man in Surah Yasin, he says, قَالَ يَا لَيْتَ قَوْمِي يَعْلَمُونَ. After they executed him, while he was giving them da'wah to truth, he said, if only my people knew. بِمَا غَفَرَ لِي رَبِّي وَجَعَلَنِي مِنَ الْمُكْرَمِينَ. The ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam has been forced to awaken in this time frame. No more sectarian drives, no more nationalistic calls. It's not about Palestinian, Yemeni, Egyptian, Pakistani, or any of that. It's about the ummah of Al-Habib Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. We're being pushed to finally awaken, to realize what's worth it and what's not worth it. What should consume my time, what shouldn't consume my time? How should I orient myself in the way I live, and what should I just cast out as noise? Senseless noise. Ya Allah, I ask you not to make us of those who are sucked into fitna and trial, to make us of those who are, beacons of light in dark times. One thing that's interesting about light is no matter how dark it gets, the darkness doesn't dim the light. The darkness doesn't dim the light. Rather, the light becomes more obvious in darkness. When you turn on the lights and it's very sunny outside, the light doesn't really show that much. It doesn't stand out. But when it's utterly dark, if I'm lit on the inside and on the outside, then guess what? I will shine. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us examples that shine in one of the darkest times. of human history, recent human history. May Allah Azza wa Jal better our condition. May Allah forgive us our many sins and our many shortcomings. آمين. اللهم أصلح أحوالنا وغيرها إلى أحسن حال. اللهم أبرم للبشرية إبرام رشد يعز فيه أهل طاعتك ويحكم فيه بشريعتك. أصلح حالنا وغير حالنا إلى أحسن حال. اللهم آمين. ادعوا الله وأنتم موقنون بالإجابة. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد أشرف الخلق وسيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. أما بعد, brothers and sisters, the summary of prophetic guidance in navigating times of trials and fitna goes back to, first, removing ignorance. Removing ignorance from within ourselves and removing ignorance from positions of power and influence. Reforming the heart and not being a people who are driven by women desire. Strengthening and bolstering our spiritual disposition. That's what we've been doing as we've been reflecting on the sacrifices of our fellow brothers and sisters on the other side of the world. And not being swayed by false ideologies that have done so much to weaken our spiritual connection. So many things attacking our minds, our hearts, and our desires. The way out of fitna, brothers and sisters, is for me to understand and realize and activate this concept of congregation in my heart. I'm not alone. I'm not going to isolate. I'm going to look for Jama'at al-Muslimin. I am going to embrace this concept of ummah to the fullest. I'm going to build and strengthen my condition with my deen. I'm going to live for things that are greater than me, myself, and I. Ask Allah Azza wa Jal to help us in doing that. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma ighfir lana warhamna. وعافنا واعف عنا وتجاوز عن سيئاتنا واغفر لصغيرنا وكبيرنا وذكرنا وانثانا وشاهدنا وغائبنا. اللهم من أحييته منا فأحيي على الإيمان ومن أمته منا فأمته على الإسلام. اللهم اجعل خير عمرنا آخرة واجعل خير عملنا خواتمة واجعل خير أيامنا يوم نلقاك فيه تراض عنا. آمين آمين. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله. أقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمد رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
لا إله إلا الله. استقيموا يرحمني يرحمكم الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل يا أيها الكافرون لا أعبد ما تعبدون ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد ولا أنا عابد ما عبدتم ولا أنتم عابدون ما أعبد لكم دينكم ولي دين. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وله. We have an important few words from our brother As'ad Mujtaba, who is running for Passaic County Commissioner. Please give him your attention, inshallah, until he comes up here. A few quick announcements. The first one is October 6th, this Sunday. It's a day of action, United for Palestine. 1 year of genocide, 76 years of resilience. Our Shaykh Qatanani is going to be opening with an opening address. It's going to be on Palestine Way and with Gold Avenue. It's going to be this Sunday at 2 p.m. Please try to attend and do the little that we can to support our brothers and sisters in Palestine. One last announcement. We have a night for Palestine coming up next Saturday, inshallah, with UHR, United Hands Relief, and we have Shaykh Qatanani and other speakers coming who are going to be speaking about how we could support our brothers and sisters in Palestine. Please give your attention to our brother As'ad, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Dr. Asad Mujtaba. I'm from the Mujtaba Clinic at 859 Clifton Avenue. So some of you might have been my patients and might know me from there. I actually live in Clifton. I went to Ghazali.